Welcome back to another player build, y'all. Today we have Sid Crybaby Crosby. Let's not waste any of y'all time. Let's hop right into how to make this build for y'all. Let's get into it. Now, all jokes aside, to recreate Crosby in ESHL, of course, he is a super fantastic all-around player, but the one archetype that really fits him best, I think, indisputably, is a playmaker, of course. And we are going to go with his actual height and weight, which is 5'11", 200 pounds even. He is, of course, a left-handed shot, and abilities and boosts we will come back to as always. First, for Crosby's technique attributes, we're just going to add 1 to wrist shot accuracy, 2 to speed, and then 2 to balance. Then we're going to take 3 off our agility. Reason being, Crosby is a relatively agile skater, of course, but we just have to sacrifice the skill points where we can with some of these attributes. Next, for Crosby's power attributes, we're going to add 5 to wrist shot power, 3 to slap shot power, 2 to our acceleration. Then we're going to take 4 off both puck control and endurance. And just like with agility, of course, we would have wanted the puck control to be a little bit higher, but unfortunately, we just had to sacrifice the attributes. After that, for our playstyle attributes, we're of course going to add 4 to passing, because the whole reason we make Crosby a playmaker is because he's a phenomenal passer. Then we're going to add 3 to offensive awareness and 2 to stick checking, as Crosby is a pretty solid defender as well. He is a pretty solid 200-foot center, although his defense is definitely not nearly as good as his playmaking and stuff, which is why we kind of focused a little bit more on his offense, but I also wanted to credit his defense a little bit with this build as well. Then we're going to take 4 off body checking, and we're going to take 1 off defensive awareness. Then for your tenacity attributes, we're going to add 5 to hand-eye, as of course, Crosby is one of the best players in the league at tip-in goals. He has a bunch under his belt in his career, and I mean, he's continuing to do it and only get better at it to this day. Then we're going to add 3 to strength, and we're going to take 5 off both shot blocking and our durability. And finally, for our tactics attributes, we're of course going to add 5 to faceoffs, as Crosby is one of, if not maybe even the best center in the league at faceoffs. Then we're going to add 3 to deking. We're going to take 5 off fighting, as Crosby will drop the gloves if he really needs to, but he is definitely not known for fighting by any means whatsoever. And we're going to take 4 off discipline. I mean, he is a relatively disciplined player, but like always, we got to sacrifice attributes where we can for the unimportant skills when it comes to highlighting what a player is good at. Now, going back to abilities, for Crosby's zone ability, I know the first thing that's coming to your mind is that you want to give him a passing ability, and of course, that would be a more than reasonable thing to do. However, since they just actually added this year, since there's no elite edges, they had to kind of switch up and give different gold abilities to the ones that did have elite edges as a gold ability. So playmakers got big tipper. Now Crosby, like I said, he's one of the best tippers in the league when it comes to tip-in goals, and I just think that's one of his best skills, so I wanted to make that his gold ability. But do not worry, we will give him some silver passing abilities. Now, of course, for his first superstar ability, we're of course going to give him a passing ability, and that is going to be tape to tape. No matter where he is on the ice, he just always finds the open man, always finds the right play to make. Then for his second one, of course, with players like Crosby, it is extremely difficult, because there's so many different things that he's just good at, and he's such a versatile all-around player that it does make it extremely difficult to limit it down to just 3 abilities. But for his second one, I did decide to give him beauty backhand. Reason being, I mean, if you've ever watched Crosby play, you know he has one of the best backhand shots in the league as well. So I don't think many of y'all will disagree with why I gave him these abilities. And finally, for Sidney Crosby's boost, for his first one, we are going to give him control deking. Reason being, that gets him to exactly 90 deking, which I feel like is more than reasonable for Sidney Crosby. Then for his second one, we are going to be giving him disciplined IQ. Reason being, that gets him to 81 defensive awareness. Like I said, I feel like he's a really good defender, and while I was definitely playmaking his highlighting his playmaking and his offensive skill, I really wanted to show a little bit of love to his defense as well, so that's why I gave him that boost as well. And that's how we recreated Sidney Crosby right here in the ESHL. Now let's hop right into game 1 and show y'all what we can do with this build. Let's get into it. Sidney Crosby, one of the players that I hate making the most, and the player that I probably hate making the most during this player build series. Reason being is I am, of course, a Flyers fan, and as a Flyers fan, I have my own personal bias towards him. But when you look at his accolades and you really break it down as an unbiased hockey fan, I just cannot deny the greatness. I cannot deny a 3-time Stanley Cup champion, a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, a 2-time Hart winner, 2-time Art Ross winner, a Conn Smythe Trophy winner. The list of accolades just goes on and on and on for Crosby. And there really is no denying that, no matter how much of a hater you are. So this is the one time a year where I really have to be unbiased and I have to be honest and break it down for y'all. Now listen, before we get into it, I have to address the elephant in the room. Obviously, I'm a Flyers fan, but I am, of course, wearing a Crosby jersey right now. And the only reason I had this is because it was sent to me by one of my wonderful Twitch viewers. Shout out to you, Jason. You know who you are. But he did send this to me because he likes to troll me, and now everybody in my Twitch chat loves to troll me, loves to make me wear this as much as possible. So it's kind of just a little funny ongoing joke for everybody. And since we're doing a Crosby video, I figured I might as well please y'all for one video this year, and I will wear the Crosby jersey for y'all. Sidney Crosby was born in Cole Harbour, a suburb of Halifax, Nova Scotia, and of course Canada. He grew up literally in the game of hockey, considering his dad was in the QMJHL. His brother played hockey as well, and his mom was also super supportive of the sport and all of them playing it while they were growing up. Then, at the age of 2 is really when he started playing hockey, and from then he showed a strong interest in skating, controlling the puck, shooting, and his dad would often take him and his brother to local rinks to play hockey as much as possible. By the time he was just 9, Crosby was already dominating his age group, so much so that coaches and scouts were already starting to recognize him as what they call as a young prodigy when he was playing for the Cole Harbour Red Wings minor hockey team. Then at just 15 years old, he was playing for the Dartmouth Subways in the Nova Scotia Major Midget Hockey League, where he would continue to absolutely dominate in this league, and he would only continue to gain more and more attention from coaches and scouts. Then also at the age of 15, he would actually follow in his father's footsteps and join the QMJHL, playing for the Rimouski Oceanic, and feel free to yell at me like always if I pronounce any of these team names or anything wrong, but he was super highly anticipated, and he somehow exceeded these expectations. In his first season in 03-04, he scored 54 goals and had 81 assists, which was 135 points in just 59 games. And even as I'm reading those numbers out loud, that is absolutely unreal, especially to do at just 15 years old. That's just absolutely insane to me. But he did, of course, notch the QMJHL's Most Valuable Player award this year, being that he was regarded as one of the best young players in the world. Then in his second season with the Oceanic, he led them to Memorial Cup finals and won several awards, including the CHL's Player of the Year. And this season only really solidified his performance and his absolute hype that was built around Sidney Crosby. Then, of course, in 2005, after these phenomenal 2 seasons in the QMJHL, he was then selected first overall by the Pittsburgh Penguins, where he has, of course, spent his entire career. As soon as he was drafted to the Pittsburgh Penguins, he was placed under pressure pretty much immediately. At just 19 years old, Sidney Crosby was named the youngest captain at the time in NHL history. That has, of course, since been passed since then, but at the time he was named the youngest captain in NHL history. So they immediately put the pressure on him, but for good reason and good reason only. And they knew that he was going to develop and only become a better player, more elite, and become a phenomenal leader as well. This decision has definitely paid off to this day, considering they have won 3 Stanley Cups under him as a captain. And I don't think there's ever been a single complaint from a Sidney Crosby teammate about how he is the leader. He's a set an example and you follow my lead type of leader. And I think that is a great way to be as a leader. He's also been described as very humble, which, as much as I hate to say it as a hater, listen, Crosby's a phenomenal player and a phenomenal leader, and there is no denying that because of things like this. Although Crosby has seen a lot of success with the Pittsburgh Penguins, that's not to say that he has not seen his struggles as well. And I'm not even necessarily talking about struggles with his play. I'm talking about injury struggles, considering from 2010 to 2012, he faced 2 separate concussion incidents that made him miss over a year of ice time. He did try to make a return, however, it was a little bit too soon and he was still having concussion symptoms, so he was forced to miss over a year of ice time and game time. But he was, of course, able to return. The way he was able to is by pretty much just taking it slow, taking his time and gradually remaining and building up his ice time until he was really able to play again fully. And of course, he was able to bounce back from these concussions, which is why to this day he has gotten so much success. Now, concussions were not the only injuries that Crosby has faced over his career. He did have a few different injuries in the playoffs that he did manage to play through, and which is why, once again, they were able to win a couple Stanley Cups, because I don't know if that would have been possible if he would have let those injuries sideline him. But he also did deal with some different back and wrist injuries. But regardless of the injury, none of these injuries have prevented him and really brought his game down a notch at all. Even to this day, at his old age, he is still continuing to put up points and be one of the best players in the league. And a big reason of why he was able to overcome all of these injuries and maintain his success like he has is because of his mental toughness, which leads me right into my next point. And that point, of course, is that he is super involved with the mental health and just mental health awareness off ice. So that is one of the very many charities that Sidney Crosby is very much involved in. He also continues to be a very helpful and a good role model for all of the youth in Pittsburgh and just all around the game of hockey. But particularly in Pittsburgh, he does, of course, have the Sidney Crosby Foundation, which does, of course, help feed children and families. Not only that, but donating $1 million in 2010 to the Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh, and just the countless charity events he donates to cancer research. The things that he does off ice is just absolutely unreal. And like I always say, as a Crosby hater, I hate him on the ice because pretty much of how good of a player he is and how much he's destroyed the Flyers over his career. But off the ice, there is no denying the absolute phenomenal work that he does for the youth, mental health awareness. Just all his charity work is absolutely undeniable and absolutely remarkable. And to this day, Sidney Crosby continues to have an impact on the game of hockey around the world, and he is continuing to break records. He just broke Mario Lemieux's Penguins all-time assist record, so he is now the Penguins all-time leader in assists. Now, of course, we cannot forget about our build rankings. So coming in at number 1 still, we do have the Matvei Michkov build. Coming in at number 2 is going to be the Pavel Datsyuk build. I still feel like that is the best 200-foot center build that I've made out of these player build rankings so far, and reasonably so for Pavel Datsyuk. Coming in at number 3 and not far behind is going to be the Sidney Crosby build. Reason being is it feels like the Pavel Datsyuk build, pretty much with better offense, just not as good of a two-way player. So I have the Datsyuk build slightly above that, but just know they're pretty much interchangeable, those two builds. Then coming in at number 4, we have the all-around offensive superstar build pretty much in Kirill Kaprizov. I love that build. It can do literally everything you want to do offensively pretty much. And coming in at number 5, like I said, this is only going to be a top 5 for now that we have a bunch of player builds and stuff. We are going to have Leon Draisaitl. Reason being, that is an absolutely lethal build with a lethal shot and can absolutely body people and hold anybody pretty much off the puck. That is how we recreated Sidney Crosby right here in ESHL. If you did enjoy the video and you are enjoying the series, please feel free to drop a like, comment any other players you want to see me recreate in ESHL down below, and sub with notifications on so you don't miss your favorite players in the future. I greatly appreciate you boys watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, y'all.